Okay, I call to order the Monday, November 25th regular school board meeting of the Rhode Island Olivia Lakeland District, number 2534. We have 6 board members present. With that, would everyone please stand and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would there be a motion to approve the agenda as published in the board packet? It's I heard member Sheehan on my right here, and member Bowen is the second. Is there any discussion on the agenda? I'll just let everyone know that we removed off the oath and acceptance of office for Brad Redderoth today. He had a personal thing that is like a once in a lifetime thing that's preventing him from being here tonight. So he'll be sworn in at the December meeting. Okay, any other discussion on approval of the agenda? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, with that, we'll vote to approve the agenda. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and the agenda is approved as published in the board packet. I'd like to recognize and thank those visitors that are here tonight to the board meeting. We have 6 visitors in the room and several staff members, and thank you to those joining online tonight. With that, we'll move to section 5 of the agenda. That's the public forum. Is there anyone here tonight wanting to speak at the public forum? Anyone wanting to speak? Anyone wanting to speak at the public forum? Okay, we have no one to speak tonight at the public forum, so we'll move on to the section 6, our consent items. That would be approving our bills for payment and enclosures A1 through A4 in the board packet, as well as the October 28th, 2024 regular school board meeting minutes and the November 12th, 2024 special school board meeting minutes, and finally the personnel that are listed in enclosure 3 of the packet. Is there a motion on the consent items? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved by member Klaus and seconded by member Oseth to approve the consent items, the bill payments, the 2 minutes, and the personnel in enclosure 3. Any discussion?
I just have 2 questions.
Yep.
On the payments, the checks, we sent one to Kelvin Educational for Hot Shot Racing Drag Star. Do we get reimbursed for that through that club?
I do not know if we get reimbursed for that. I can check into that though for you.
Yeah.
What check number?
Oh, check number 51932 for Kelvin Educational. That was like $3,559. Not sure what it is. Hot Shot Racing, I'm not sure.
I think I know what it is. I think it's the CO2 cars that we got through the, but I'm not positive on that. So.
I suspect it is because if you see over here on the right, it's CO2
something.
carbon dioxide.
Oh, that's what it is then.
And then some dual lane something or other.
So that was purchased through ESSER funds.
Okay. And then,
You can see videos on it on Rob's Facebook page of it in action.
okay. Then I have one more here. I'm just looking at Chapel Central bill in the back kitchen prep. What's that gonna cost us to redo that kitchen in the back? The old kitchen, so we can use that during the noon. Do we know what that?
Well,
I can't remember.
it's substantial. I don't know the number off the top of my head, of course, but 60.
Are we gonna be able to utilize that after this? After the renovation?
No,
We'll be
that
able-
will not be part of. That will end up becoming part of the special ed suite.
Okay. So the kitchen stuff that's in there will be moved down to the new one?
Yep, it'll all go down.
And then
to
it'll
the
be
new
like an
kitchen.
empty space. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know if we're buying stuff for there and then buying new over there.
No, we'll be able to reuse most of the things, yeah.
Was it?
There's,
Okay.
there's a few things that are gonna be tough to reuse, but, yeah, in general, most of that will be replaced.
Alright, that's all I got.
Any other questions or discussion on the consent items? Any other discussion or questions? Any other discussion or questions on the consent items? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on the consent items. All members in favor of approving the consent items that are published on the board packet agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries and the consent items pass. Okay. Let's move on to reports. Jim,
All right.
superintendent report.
We'll start with some building updates. You might have seen in the parking lot, they've been working on the outside of the pool. They've gotten quite a bit done out there. We're waiting on a permit and hoping to be able to start pouring footings on the north side of the building, but again, it's being held up by a permit. They're cautiously optimistic that they might be able to still pour them here before the ground gets too frozen, but it may have to be pushed back. The gym in Bird Island is nearly ready. They're on track to be open next week for the games there. I've looked in there. I haven't seen the bleachers in there yet, but the floor looks really nice. And they've got one minor problem. They forgot one of the lane lines, so they need that. And they're going to be going back in and fixing that, and they do not expect that to delay the opening of that gym. But we'll know more by the end of the week if that is going to cause a problem. But we are getting ready to set up some interviews for a business manager position. We met Christine at the T&T presentation here. She has been absolutely fantastic. And depending on what we find with our applicants, we may tailor the position a little bit one way or another. We might stick with having some of the work done by the Southwest Service Co-op. We really want to see how the interviews go first, and then we'll decide after that. But it's been working pretty well.
Did we ever check and see what it would cost us to keep the service I know he keeps saying it's a lot of money, but what's a lot of money? To just keep the co-op here, so we.
They just won't, they won't be able to do that for us. They've got other schools that they are servicing, and, we would be putting together a contract proposal in the next couple weeks, or a couple months if that's the route that we decide to go. But right now, it's about $70 an hour for their services while they're on site. When they're not on site, when they come here, it's $90 an hour, so it adds up. There are some, if we can piece it together though, that would go a lot easier for us. It wouldn't cost nearly as much as that.
How many interviews?
But to me, cost.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Finish.
go ahead, you
I
start.
was just curious how many interviews you got scheduled.
I've set up one.
One?
We're gonna set up a second one. We've had 2 applications come in so far. And I was hoping to have 5 or 6, but we're not, if we interview 2, we're not forced to hire one of them if we don't feel that they're gonna suit us, so.
I think we need to be very diligent on
Yeah,
what
I
we
plan
do
on,
here.
yeah, we'll do that.
And make sure that co-op can continue to help us.
Yeah, well, and that's, whichever way we go, we're gonna be using the co-op to help with that. We'll do a mentoring program and hopefully be able to have Christine keep helping as a mentor for however long it takes.
It'll be a good bridge.
Yeah, absolutely, and she knows so much of what's going on here right now. It'll be easy for her to help out, and she's really kind of gotten things in order, and everything is looking good.
Okay.
MSBA conference coming up on September 16th and 17th.
January 6th.
Or, I'm sorry, January 16th and 17th. Thank you. Please make sure you are, that you have your hotel reservations. I know some of you told me that you did find that in your email. You should have one for the night of the 15th and the night of the 16th. We'll have, Brad Redrath will be doing phase 1 training on the Tuesday evening, actually, on the 14th. Then phase 2 on the Wednesday. And Todd, I have you signed up for phase 3.
I haven't received it.
I just did it today.
Okay.
Yep, and I'm trying to get your hotel room extended a night. It shouldn't be a problem, but since it's under your name now, I might need you to have you help me out there.
Wait, I currently have one for the night of the 15th,
Yeah,
and I think phase 3 is during the day on the 15th.
yeah.
Oh,
Do you want to?
I actually probably don't need
Okay.
the hotel because I could drive in early that morning
Perfect,
of the 15th,
okay.
and then, yeah, I don't need an additional hotel room that
Okay.
saves
Perfect.
the district money.
Yes, indeed. All right, good to know. But everybody else, verify your rooms, please. So, if you haven't already done so. I will add just a couple things here. We do have the survey getting ready to go out for the 4-period day. The results will be in on, we're planning to have those for you either before or on the 12/16 board meeting. So, it's.
So you've already sent those out, or done them, they've already done them?
No, they haven't done them yet, no. They're getting ready to send those out.
So,
They're doing the phone call survey like we did last time.
yeah, so the parents that have kids in the school, all of them are not gonna get that survey, like,
No, that's just not how they do these. Statistically, it doesn't change the outcomes that much.
well, they could.
They're gonna do the survey will be focused mostly on families that have students in the school that are targeted. And then there's also outside survey, if you don't have students in the school, to gauge the impact on the community.
They're
So-
very good at this, and,
Yeah.
and they understand how to do this very scientifically. You know, when we look at the results of the survey they did for our referendum, they were right on, they were dead on. I'm pretty confident, it would probably cost us an amazing amount of money if we wanted to send a phone call to every family or goal.
I think if you just take and put it on our website and have them click in there and click, it doesn't cost you anything to have it on our website.
Nothing on, yeah, but a survey is a lot more than just like this, yes or no. They go in and they inform, and you're able to make informed decisions as you're going through that survey.
I'm just worried that the parents that,
Let's get the results back, and then, you know, just because whichever way the results go, we might be able to, we'll have a discussion on that, and then we'll figure out our next steps from that.
If you just put a survey up for anyone to go in, you don't control who's filling it out. And you can have one person go in and fill out 10 responses saying,
couldn't you have, I mean, don't these parents have like a family number at the school? Like, your number is whatever, and then, so they don't have a number assigned to their
No,
family, or?
I don't.
I don't know how you're, I'm just worried, cause I've heard a lot of things from young parents that have been kind of frustrated, cause they wanna say in what's going on, and,
Have them give me a call.
well, I told them about it,
Yeah.
but they probably won't.
and the other thing I would mention is, if you do have concern, don't speak to just one board member, speak to multiple board members about it and convey it. You
Yeah, I
know,
did,
it's-
I told them, I said, call somebody else.
Yeah,
They're worried about after effects.
we wanna be cognizant of what the community and the parents think.
Yeah.
And mostly the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why we're doing the survey. Any other questions for Jim on his report? Okay. With that, we'll move on to B, our PK to 6 principal report. Chris.
Hi, good evening. So I'm gonna just run through a few highlights. Enrollment is there for you to look at. So I have been getting into some classrooms, and so I did just highlight a few of the things that I'm seeing. Students working together to support each other's reading. They were doing a division game and actually enjoying it. That was very exciting. Also helping each other when they got stuck. 6th graders were learning about global warming, both sides of global warming, so that was really exciting. I've also had some parents sharing some stories about some of the relationships that they're building with students, so that's been a lot of fun. You can see a picture there, and that is from a sing-along that was organized by Miss Wasco. I have not heard, and this was, I believe this was just pre-K, or no, this was just K4 students. These sounded so good, so I think our music program is going to be really good in a few years. November 8th, we had family time. It was a great turnout. I've listed there some of the awards that were given out. I'd also like to say that Mrs. Phillips, the STEAM teacher, put together a slideshow that was fabulous. We had some musical numbers that were performed by 6th grade band students. And then the picture that I included there is not from family time, but it's the same sort of idea. The Fayetta Music collaborated, created this drum routine that they did on buckets, but then you can see the kids laying there behind Miss Wasco. Those kids were doing a planking. They were planking. It was like a whole routine. And at family time, there were probably 100 kids out on that gym floor doing it. It was fabulous. It was so exciting. All right, a couple new faces. We've had some students in our building. So both students that are doing clinical work and then some student teachers. We do have a new parent in the building, so that's really exciting. Letters training. The facilitators reached out to me and said that they really wanted to do in-person rather than virtual. So I thought that was a fabulous idea. I've got really good feedback from the teachers as far as that went last week or a couple weeks ago. And then you will notice, you're probably wondering why I'm wearing Christmas, but it does have to do with I haven't lost my mind completely, but it has to do with our Underground Spirit Days. So we've had a few of those. The picture here is drink from anything but a cup. I can promise you that she was not drinking Lysol wipes. She had a cup inside there, okay? Today was our Christmas in November day. We also had a Friendsgiving potluck last Friday. So that was really good. And then the last little thing there is just about the update that Nexus gave our staff members about the next few phases of construction. So, questions?
Communication went well between Nexus and staff?
Yeah, I think so. There were a few, they came with great questions. So some of the staff were wondering about things. They weren't exactly clear on the fact that they had to be packed up and out of their rooms, and were not going to maybe be allowed to go back in until August. So I think that was the biggest concern that I
would say
heard.
so.
Yeah. So, yeah, but we'll keep working on that. Anything else?
Any other questions? Okay, thanks,
All right,
Chris.
thank you. Yep.
Let's move on to part C, our 7 through 12 principal report from Missy.
Also part of the Underground Spirit Day. A few things. We've had a busy month. 2/3 of our kids made the honor roll, A and B, and I think that is fabulous. A lot of kids really trying hard. In November, we also had our student survey out, talking about surveys. It was a simple survey, about 13 questions, asking about safety and connectedness at school, feelings of safety and connectedness, feelings about your experiences in the classroom, and then what can both staff do to help you feel better about being in school. If you could change one thing, do you have comments or suggestions? So I have not had time to compile it in a report that would be presentable to you guys. I didn't wanna hand you like 80 pages of raw data. So, but preliminary, kids are supportive of a 4-day week. They want more food. They had some great comments about just the building in general, wider hallways and things like that. And I think for the most part, they did a really good job. There was a couple kids that, you know, had a few answers out there, but for the most part, I was very impressed with our students and how they answered the survey questions. And this was the day after the election too, so there was a few other comments that might not have been in there. And so anyways, you can expect those results. We have a student focus group that I'll be working with after Thanksgiving break. I think there's about 7 students that have volunteered to do that. So I'm excited to actually talk to them about what came out of this survey. And also staff has preliminarily reviewed it as well and had some really amazing insights. So more to come on that, student voice. And what will come out of this for staff is goals centered around student achievement and school improvement. So that's to come. Got a grant for the care closet that will be coming soon. And also at our last PLC group, we had a broad introduction to what the READ Act will look like in the high school. And we'll be very much supported on that. And I think Chris just took the numbers down about how many people that will need to be trained, but we won't be going through the letters the extensive that the elementary is. It'll be a different program, but still rooted in the science of reading. But staff was engaged in that conversation with Becky from the co-op. We also talked a little bit about multi-tiered systems of support and what tier 1 support looks like in high school classrooms, and that is also coming down the pipe for Minnesota high schools or Minnesota schools all across. You usually hear about MTSS more in the elementary side, but it's something we'll need to be working on as well. That is my highlights in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. How many of those kids did you survey? What grades were they?
7, 12. And the questions were designed by staff. What did staff want to know? They did that work in October, so 255 students took the survey. Some, you know, being absent or for whatever reason didn't, but that was a pretty good turnout for that.
And you compiled all those yourself, the 255?
Well, the program
Yeah.
does.
So you have a program that did it?
Yeah.
So it's possible?
Yeah, and then I just
Yeah.
dumped it into AI and had it theme it out and everything like that.
Okay.
I haven't dug into it yet because I am a research nerd and I'll get lost in it. And I don't have time to get lost in it right now, but that'll happen at some point. Any other questions?
Any other questions by anyone? I think you're pretty good going, Missy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item D, our activities report. That's enclosure number 7 in the packet. Any questions by the board for Derek? Of course, he's always available. Any questions from anyone? Okay, we will move on then to our community education report. That's enclosure number 8 in the packet. Also, there's a discussion on the adult programs and youth programs. Any, maybe a question I have, the survey that went out through the website, what feedback came through on that, Jim?
We had 5 people respond to it. It's still active if anybody wants to go on there, but there was nothing earth-shattering on there.
Okay.
What I would love to see is people that have different hobbies. You know, maybe you're into leatherworking, or you know, whatever it is that you as an adult are into. Why not share that with people? Knitting or any number of things. I know schools that have done winemaking, not at the school, of course, but
In theory practice.
but share that with people, and you can create classes designed for students. You can create classes that are designed for other adults, which is the whole point of community ed. It's creating a community of lifelong learners. So I'm hoping that we can get to the point where that becomes more of a cultural part of who Bold is. I know I've said many times when I was a kid in Mankato, we would look forward to this newspaper that would come out quarterly, and especially in the summer, there were all kinds of different things that were out there. I took a class on developing black and white photos and film, and that spurred me on to create a darkroom in my basement when I was a 7th grader. I learned how to type when I was a 5th grader, and those were all just fun activities that were available. And but the culture was such that everybody just expected everybody was going to be doing this. I think what happens a lot of the times now here is that, well, something will get planned and then we won't have enough people show up and then or sign up, and then we just can't run. So I think it's a cultural thing. I think we've got to work to build that in who we are.
Okay, anything else on the community ed report? Okay, let's move on then to part F, which is enclosure 9, our pool report from Tracy. Any questions or discussion on the pool report?
I was really glad to read that we had students that were interested in lifeguarding and pursue that to be potential applicants for work here at our pool.
Any other questions? So if anything does crop up, you do have a couple board members that are on the committee, as well as Tracy directly as the pool coordinator to ask questions to. Okay, let's move on then to our facilities report. That's enclosure number 10 in our packet. Any questions on Denny's report for the month? Okay, I don't hear any questions. Then we will move on to school board committee reports. So the facilities committee last met here in November. Member Sheehan or Member Benson, do you have information you want to share on that meeting? Committee meeting?
We haven't met since then. I think we updated last time.
Yeah, we
Oh, that's right.
we talk about it at the
Special meeting.
special meeting.
That's right, that's right. Okay. All right, then we will move on to section 8, our new business. So the first item in new business that would be enclosure number 11 in our packet. This is our third and final reading of policy 616, school district system accountability. Is there a motion? Is there a second? It's been moved by member Bowen and seconded by member Ossoff to approve the final reading of policy 616, school district system accountability. So I'll just point something out. There was a change to this. It was pointed out to me that we had an ELA, our English Language Arts curriculum, was actually purchased this year and moved into what would be phase 0 on the report, so that changed pages 5 and 6 in the enclosure, and so that was the change that was made for the this enclosure today, so that was done midday today. So, any discussion on policy 616? Any discussion on policy 616? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed then to vote and approve policy 616, school district system accountability, as published in the board packet. All members in favor of passing policy 616 as published in the packet, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and policy 616 is adopted. Let's move then to B. That is our third and final reading of policy 806, crisis management policy, and policy 4. So that's enclosure number 12 in the packet. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. It's been moved by member Klaus and seconded by member Sheehan to approve the final reading of policy 806, crisis management policy, and policy form as published in the board packet. Is there any discussion?
I would like to discuss, on page 806-9.
Okay.
Number 2B. Jim, I'm referencing, from the old app that I have, the letter that you sent out to parents following the latest issue here at school. And in reading this policy, I think just to reiterate part B, the importance of taking threats seriously and seeking help for students, to make them aware that this is part of our responsibility as a student in a community of learners, or anywhere in the community. And to report that dangerous activity, which is under part C, to make sure that we somehow let students know that this is okay to tattle or come out against a person that's endangering harm to someone else. And that it's okay, you're not the one that's, in trouble. So I'm glad it's in this policy, but somehow to reiterate that to students, I think is very important.
And I think that's a good point. I think, and I mentioned this in the paper, we had some kids that knew about it, and they didn't say anything because they were trying to protect their friend from getting in trouble. You'd get in far worse trouble the longer that goes. People would be far better off if we would have known before we brought in the police and the sheriff's department and the metal detectors. By letting it go that far, you didn't protect your friend, you hurt your friend. So, glad you brought that up.
Okay, good discussion. Any other discussion, questions?
I have a question, and maybe I didn't see it in the policy specifically. What came to mind is, we're looking at the school environment right here, which is where the potential threat was. But what about that bus ride to school? Is there anything or
I believe, if I remember looking through the policy, it may be in here, it might be somewhere else, but that the transportation is included when you're essentially becoming in transport in on a school bus, that would be included.
The bus is an extension of the school. All of our policies cover everything that happens on a bus. Not even just the bus, but the bus stop. If your house has a bus stop on the corner and kids are fighting there, well, that gets reported to the school, and those kids will be held accountable for that because that's considered school.
I was worried about safety of kids riding a bus. I mean, I don't know if this person was on the bus or walked or whatever, but if that was something that needed to be covered, if something like this would happen again, we covered the grounds right here.
And I think it's also in, for example, the student handbook. I believe it's also included in the student handbook. good question.
What, I don't know if we can talk about it, but, we had 147 students that didn't come that day. Did we lose out on that funding for that day? And we can't really do anything with the students.
No,
I mean,
no, I mean,
you
and
can't
I
punish them
don't,
for staying home.
I don't blame a parent.
No, I
If
don't
were-
either.
parental
if I
right
No,
were-
to take
absolutely,
your child.
absolutely. I was hoping we weren't, so.
Okay, any other discussion on policy 806? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, hearing no more discussion, we'll, excuse me, we'll proceed to vote on approving policy 806, the crisis management policy and policy form. All members in favor of approving policy 806 as published in the board packet, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and policy 806, as published in the board packet, passes. Okay, we will now move on to C. This would be a first and final reading of policy 412, expense reimbursement. That's enclosure 13 in the packet. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Oseth to approve policy 412 as a first and final reading, which is expense reimbursement. I'll point out that in looking at this, the only changes to it were just in reference to the naming of the statutes in the back, and it is very, very similar. I mean, if not exactly the same as what we currently have. So, with the revision. So that's why we can do one reading and approval, because there's no substantial changes to it per our policy of policies policy. So any discussion on 412? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote, and on policy 412, expense reimbursement. All members in favor of approving policy 412 as a first and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Policy 412 is adopted today. All right. We are now on enclosure number 14. That is D under new business, our second reading of policy 514, bullying prohibition. So this would be up for approval at the December meeting. Is there any discussion or comments on this? On this policy? And the form with it, I should say. Any discussion? Okay, if there's anything that comes up, notice by Mr. Bowen or myself, as we're on the policy committee here, sometime in the next 10 business days, so we can get it implemented and looked at prior to publishing the board packet for the December 16th meeting, okay? Let's move on then to E under new business. That would be our second reading of policy 514. I'm sorry, second reading of policy 799, the allergen safety policy. That's enclosure 15 in the packet. Again, this would be up for approval at the December 16th meeting. This is the policy last month that was originally listed as latex safety, and we opted to change it to allergen safety.
Did a nice job with that policy, combining the two.
So, is there anything that caught anyone's attention that we need to address on it? Okay, again, take a look at it and let member Bowen or myself know as we're on the policy committee and we'll take a look at the input, and, then this policy will be up for voting, and approving here in about 3 weeks on the 16th of December at the regular board meeting. Okay, let's move on to F, under new business. It's our second reading of policy 903, visitors to the school district buildings and sites. It's enclosure 16 in the packet. Again, this would be up for approval at next month's meeting. Just had some small statute changes, and that was related into regards of the PSEO, which would be statute 124D.09. That was kind of the main change in that policy. So anything that comes up, let Member Bowen or myself know. Okay, we ready to move on? Okay, let's move on now to G, our second reading of policy 603, curriculum development, enclosure number 17 in the packet. And this, I believe, if my memory is correct, kind of goes in tandem with the school district system accountability, the policy 616 we just approved it earlier in this meeting. But this would kind of be concurrent type policy to related to that. So this is a new one that the district currently does not have as a policy, but we will look to implement next month. So any questions on policy 603? Okay. Let's then move on to H, our first reading of policy 902. Jim, oh, never mind, I do have that, I'll just go this over. I had to glance a second. So 902, school district facilities and equipment, number 18. So this is first time it's on as a first reading, and the big changes the changes you can see are in red on the policy, and then the other changes would be, if you look on page 5 on the fee schedule, so that would be an increase on the fee schedule, and on page 4 at the bottom for the traveling lead agreement. Because this was last updated to my knowledge, the fee schedule in 2011. So the fees has essentially went up $10. So take a look at that, and we'll have a few more readings. This will be a policy that will tentatively be approved in January of 2025 with the updated fee schedule. And I didn't hear anything back from Gary on it.
I'm making a note to remind myself to just make sure everything on there is good.
So, okay. Jim, I do not have a resolution in my packet.
We don't have any gifts.
Oh,
We approved some at the special meeting.
Yeah, so, yeah, I just noticed that as we're going down, like,
okay. Since we do not have anything, there will be no resolution and no action taken, as there's none to acknowledge. So with that, we will move on to item J. That would be a closed session. The meeting will be closed pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 2A3 for data that are not public data under section 13.32. Is there a motion? Before we have that motion, I want to point out to those students that are here tonight that need papers signed, before we start the closed session, you're free to come up, we'll sign your documents for you and make sure that you get credit for class and don't have to come back and in December, so. Okay. So is there a motion to move to the closed session? Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by member Bowen and seconded by member Klaus to move into closed session. All in favor say, or any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll move into closed session at, we'll give 5 minutes here for the students to, so we can sign it at approximately 7:50 PM. So.